Hi, my name is Jane Johnston from Travel with a Cause, and it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Justin Pagotto. He's a social entrepreneur and a visionary behind Trips Plus Holidays with Purpose, who is passionate about the power of purpose-driven travel to quite literally change the world. Travel with a Cause chose to partner with Justin and Trips Plus due to the high-quality, holistic nature that results in life-changing experience for both participants and the communities they touch. Today in this webinar, we're going to focus on how schools can raise up the next generation of leaders through two incredible service learning opportunities. Justin, welcome to the webinar.
Hi, Jane, and a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be talking about transforming students.
Yeah, so let's start by what is Trips Plus and Holidays with Purpose.
Sure. So Trips Plus, we curate life-changing holidays with purpose tours to the Philippines. We're Philippines specialists. So that's one thing to note. We are Philippines specialists, and we believe that no other company can match, the quality of the immersion experience and the deep transformative experience that students go on.
And you are a social enterprise. So what does that mean?
Sure. So social entrepreneurs think very differently to profit-driven businesses. So as a social entrepreneur, I look at what are the problems that exist in society, and then how can we solve them using the power of business. So we're passionate about using travel, purpose-driven travel, as a powerful source for good. And then how do we actually make that a sustainable process that can actually bring long-term transformation, not only in communities, but also with students and teachers alike?
At Travel with a Cause, we're very passionate about sustainable tourism and responsible tourism, like you are doing. And we're very excited to partner with you as the Sustainable Tourism Global Award winner. In October 2022. So it really is a great fit. So why the Philippines, and what's the connection?
Yeah, so like a lot of things, Trips Plus probably found me, not me found Trips Plus. So my good friend Kuya Mario, so Kuya means older brother in Tagalog, which is the Philippines' main language. And Mario, I've known him for 25 years, and he asked me in 2015, will you come on a mission and a leadership trip to the Philippines? And I had an opportunity to go to Africa, actually, but my heart just started beating about the Philippines when he told me, will you come for 10 days? And I went home to my wife and I said, I just really got to go on this trip. I don't know why. So I went once in 2015, fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people. And Mario and I started dreaming, how can we actually change the Philippines? He'd been going back for 10 or 15 years doing leadership training. And we said, what can we do? And then that's where Trips Plus was founded. So we can use the power of purpose-driven travel to quite literally change people's lives in the Philippines.
So you're telling me about this incredible feedback you get from one of your customers recently, and what was that?
Yeah, so the common feedback that we get from all our customers is you guys make it so easy, and that also that it's a life-changing experience. And I'll give you an example of that. So a week or so ago, I was in the Philippines for one of the other projects we do, which is medical missions, which takes primary medical care to the poorest communities, people who can't afford medical treatment. And one of those people was a guy called Jimmy, who's an insurance broker from Brisbane. Not a medical person, so half of our medical missions teams are non-medical. And Jimmy said this to me, he said, today would be single-handedly the most eye-opening day of my life. That's a pretty big statement, isn't it? Today would be the most eye-opening day of my life. Thank you for arranging and providing the experience. It's touching, emotional, and motivational all in one. And so in that actual tour, all of us who went on that, which there were some nurses, some non-medical people, we actually decided to sponsor a printer and computer so youth didn't have to walk into school, to sponsor the seed capital for the startup of a co-op store in a Gawad Kalinga village. So we have actually done an impact, even in that small trip, plus the medical mission stuff that we did. the transformation will go on way beyond the tour. And that's really, if you ask me my why, that's really what makes my heart come alive, to actually see that we literally can change people's lives.
Fabulous. And how does schools fit into that? Knowing that, you know, there's a lot of school trips that people do. Obviously, yours is with a difference. How do they fit in?
Yeah, good question. I'm very passionate about mentoring. I'm very passionate about leadership. I've been doing it for 25 years, leadership, pouring myself into people. And obviously the young people are the future of tomorrow. And so I kept getting the same feedback from schools and parents that, number one, how do we solve this problem of entitlement for a generation of kids who have grown up in an affluent culture? I don't know about you, Jane, whether you want to speak into that, but there just seems to be this culture of entitlement because Aussie kids have never had to see, haven't seen a recession since 1992.
No, that's right. Look, I've had an experience with other groups that take teens out on missions, and they basically give them boot camp and take their phone off them and teach them how to wash their clothes again. It is a problem of you know, our society, really, isn't it? So overcoming that is taking them out and showing them the real world.
Yeah, so a couple of other questions that parents and teachers gave me. How do we develop a culture of gratitude where many children have everything they need and more? How do we raise up well-rounded leaders with a heart for the poor who want to give back to disadvantaged communities? So these are the questions that were sort of bubbling up inside of me. And I thought we can actually solve this by taking schools over to the Philippines to have these life-changing trips and to dream and say, how can we make the world a better place? How can we actually pour ourselves into the younger generation so they can see a problem in the world and say, we actually know how to make a difference? And, you know, you can talk about it in the classroom, you can do a subject on it, but there is nothing like actually going and being in the trenches of an authentic cultural immersion. And that's the common feedback we get. It's just the wow factor of how much your heart is changed by going on one of our trips.
Yeah, and of course the Philippines are beautiful backgrounds, some beautiful places to visit. And you've got a couple of projects for schools, the SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty program and an alternative to Schoolies. Is that right?
Yeah, so let's talk about them. So as I said, I think about the problem and I also think about what are the outcomes that I want. So the first one is called SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty, and you've got to come up with a catchy name. So I like coming up with those names. But basically that one focuses, it's for year 8 to year 11 students. So any student in that range where they're really able to be invested into, and that's the great time to actually change the way they think. But what we do, we get in the trenches with Filipino communities. We hear their stories of how to combat poverty, their stories of courage, resilience, and then we actually work with the Philippines' largest not-for-profit, who are actually experts at how to combat poverty, not just at a single family, but in a community level. So that's the SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty. The second one is Alternative Schoolies. I've called the Bayani Challenge. And we were working on this and then COVID hit and blew everything up, but it's time to reboot it. But, you know, I passionately believe that there's some students who really don't want to go to the Gold Coast, you know, get drunk and do the things that happened there, but actually really want to spend the time at the end of their high school studies to go overseas to actually have a life-changing experience where they have fun as well, you know, so they can have fun and have a few drinks and all that type of stuff, but they'll actually go and do something meaningful like a gap year, but a shorter period over 10 days where it really actually does change their lives. So Bayani means hero in Filipino. And so that's what we've got. We've got a 10-day immersive experience for schoolies to go overseas and celebrate their schoolies with a life-changing experience.
So talk me through the community transformation that students are involved in and the volunteering projects that they'll be doing over there.
Yeah, so let's start with, I guess, the outcome. So that's really what our both SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty and the Alternative Schoolies Bounty Challenge are both designed to give these 5 benefits or outcomes for the student. The first one is, all the schools talk about, the C's. Used to be 4 C's, now it's 6 C's. But, students learn best by doing. So the first thing they're going to do is to develop these vital life skills by actually rolling up their sleeves in a shared charity project. Okay, so they're going to go for 10 days. And as I said to you before, I think you'll probably get more than 2 years worth of benefit out of going for 10 days. The second benefit is to learn the art of giving back, through deep relationships with our partners. Our students will learn the value of humility and servanthood. And I think this is some values which is getting lost in Western and Australian culture. The third one is to grow in gratitude. I always get this culture shock when I come back from the Philippines. In the Philippines, the people are very grateful despite going through a lot of adversity. Have you found that, Jane?
Yeah, they really are generous with their smiles and their souls, and yeah, just beautiful people.
And when I was there recently, there was a lady, Brianna, her name is, who had deformed hands and feet, and she was out on a bridge. I was walking past, asked her, how do I get back to my hotel? Because I went a different way. And she said, come into my family home. I'm going to give you a whole bag of mangoes. So this is a lady who lived in the slums, and we went into her house, and it's literally like a dungeon. And then her mum and her cousin, I think, came out of this dungeon. Like, it was like a dirt cave. And Brandon said, here's a whole bag of mangoes. And
yeah,
that's the stuff that really touches and breaks my heart. And, when you come back to Australia, sometimes we forget how blessed we are. We forget that we have such good hospitals, education, roads, water, infrastructure, and it takes going overseas to realize you don't that you're taking that for granted. And there's a great quote from Booker T. Washington. He said, I began learning long ago that those are the happiest are those who do the most for others.
Yeah.
And so you think about it for kids, one of my goals is to see kids' joy factor and their deep happiness increase. In Australia, we've got some issues with mental health, and especially amongst kids. And I think part of it, the way you address it, is to actually go and serve and see how other people live and just develop that core heart attitude of gratitude.
So talk me through the volunteer projects they'll be involved in.
Yeah, it depends per village, but basically we take the view that we work in partnership with our local partner. Our main one is the largest Filipino NGO, and it's the most trusted. So they have these polls, and this organization, it's called Gawad Kalinga, wins the most trusted organization in the Philippines. So it's quite amazing. And they started back in 1995, and there's a long history, but basically now they're in over 3,000 villages. So it's not 3,000 communities. It's not just 1 or 2 villages. This is a proven model. And Gawad Kalinga in Tagalog means to love and to care. And they have this saying, walang iwanan, and it means no one is left behind. And I've been exposed to Gawad Kalinga model and just sitting with people, and it's always touches my heart. What we actually do is we work with the Gawad Kalinga villages and our other not-for-profits, and we say, first thing is to listen to their stories. So recently, I heard the story of 2 women. One, their family lived under a boulder. So can you imagine having your house under a boulder and had this threat that the boulder was going to fall on them? And then they were part of Gawad Kalinga's building program, where they literally do 1,600 hours of sweat equity, and then you get a house to live in. So they moved from a boulder to a Goa Kalinga house through this building program. And the second lady actually had breast cancer. And so she worked in mid 30-degree temperatures, probably high 90% humidity, to do her 1,600 hours while she had breast cancer. And she told us she had secretions coming from her breast and thought she was going to die. You know, that's courage, that's resilience. So students get to hear these stories, and we actually interact in the village. And so other things we can do can be painting, can be an environmental cleanup, can be a feeding program in schools, can be a feeding program in communities. But some of the biggest stuff is just hanging out in the community and immersing ourselves in how our Filipinos live.
Are there any risks in traveling in the Philippines?
Well, there's risk with everything, right? So you can't live in the world without taking a risk. And so that's what I always tell people. And then we also say, well, in Australia, look at the risks. We've got snakes, sharks, you know, what else? Spiders, things that can kill you, right? So, of course, any form of travel has risks, okay? But having said that, I've been to the Philippines multiple times, never felt unsafe. It's a beautiful people. The people are very warm. And so we undertake a comprehensive risk assessment that is really thorough. And we actually say, okay, what are the risks? How do we minimize those? And what are we going to do if something happens? So yes, there are risks, but we do a full risk process, which we work with the schools.
And of course, you know, we've always got the backup. We always encourage all groups to take out travel insurance to make sure they're covered. And we have a really good travel insurance policy. A lot of countries these days need you to have that policy taken out just to enter the country.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
So how about the frequently asked questions from schools? What do schools ask you about with this project?
Yep, there's a few. One of them is, can we design our own SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty tour or our own alternative schoolies? And the answer is a resounding yes. And sort of as social entrepreneurs, we think, how do we actually make the biggest impact? Rather than how do we have one tour that we just churn people through? So it's our absolute delight to be able to custom a tour for school. So we had one school that is a faith-based school who wanted to have a high level of spiritual formation. And so we worked with that school to add some faith experience. They are of the Catholic branch of faith. So to work with the Catholic Church and Catholic organizations in the Philippines alongside.
Yeah, so you can tailor make basically anything that you need. And there's so many opportunities and so many destinations, you know, mountain climbing and snorkeling, and it is an amazing destination, and the itineraries are very exciting.
You can choose your combination of how much community development, how much social entrepreneurship, how much charity, how much education exchange. You can actually literally talk to students as well, and how much fun. And so, as I said, faith-based schools can add mission and worship into that, but it's up to be customized based on your requirement.
So how much time should they prepare for 2023 if they want to book a tour in? What time lead up do they need?
So the SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty, I think a good 12 months is a good time for that. Because you need to go through from idea phase, work out exactly what you want, cost it up, do the full risk assessment, and then take it to the P&C or the group who works the parents as well, and then to have enough time for people to raise their funds. So I'd say
that's a good idea with airfares. Like 2023 is almost booked out with a lot of groups. So to get right onto it as soon as you know, and get the support of the community around you. That's fabulous.
Alternative schoolies, you know, obviously the year 12s finish about November, mid-November each year. So alternative schoolies starts end of November, start of December. So we think a great time is when the year 11, term 4, year 11 students, when they're starting to transition into year 12. And that again gives them a full 12 months to actually know about this, plan ahead, and then they can get on with studying when they hit year 12 in the new year.
So Justin, can you sum up for us the experience for Schoolies?
So SchoolPreneur Combat Poverty and Alternative Schoolies is really about changing students' lives, creating this legacy for both leadership and student transformation. And so I guess you'll love our tours if you're passionate about these things. So number one, fast-tracking leadership development with your student leaders, developing well-rounded kids who have a heart for the poor, a heart to give back to the world, modeling the importance of volunteering and serving, and lastly, fostering this gratitude and thankfulness and seeing the well-being of students look outwards. So they're the 4 things that we look to achieve through both our tours.
Okay, so what are the next steps for schools?
So the first step is we have a free guide, a school information kit that goes through what we talked about today, but in a lot more detail that you can get. So you can get that school information kit by clicking in the link below or in the notes section of this. The second one is to book a Zoom call with me so we can just start the conversation. It's best to just start the conversation. I'll ask you about your school, find out about the problems, the issues, also find out, how do you want to develop leaders, and then to start a conversation and then move it forward into booking a trip.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Justin. I'm inspired too, and I look forward to working with you and schools to create these amazing experiences.
Yeah, and what better things, can you pour your life into than to invest in the next generation, and also invest in the next generation that's transforming the poor. So this is the stuff that makes my heart come alive and excited, and it's just so rewarding. So I look forward to working with you too.
Fabulous to discuss. Thank you.